Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we are not error, we are definitive. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going so good.
Yeah, how good is it going?
Well, here's the thing. We're recording this beginning after we know the answer to who's the definitive Zelda NPC, and I feel a weight has been lifted off me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And no hints here or spoilers about what decision we came to. But it is obviously the right and definitive one. You are listening to the episode wherein we determined the best Zelda NPC. You guys helped us. Thank you so much. I don't know. I don't think we should chat too much before just like kicking over to it, right?
No, I think just real fast.
Yep.
Because you got to go fast if you want to borrow Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces.
That's right. So as quickly as possible and as is safe, send your address to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And I send you the thing. You can send it back to me. You get to borrow Sonic Forces like we're friends. That's it. Mark, let's get to you, me, and Omar Najam figuring out who the best Zelda NPC of all time is. We are joined today to determine the best Zelda NPC by Omar Najam.
Hello.
Hi, Omar. I was going to say writer. I was going to say director. I was going to say podcaster. I was going to say you know him from Thank You for Questing. You know him from the Sunnydale Study Group. Omar Najam is here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
I jumped on that intro. I jumped on both of these intros.
No. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're real fast and loose around.
Great.
here. Yeah.
Also, energy, I would say, is riding high.
Well, okay, guys. Before we start, no. This is totally true. We are feeling great.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be like big. We have set a monumental task for ourselves, determining the best Zelda NPC ever. And I've got to tell you guys, if it were anybody else but the three of us determining it, I would not have confidence. That the correct one would be chosen.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think that another group of 3 or 4 or 5 or however many people would come up with an answer, but it would be wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right?
It would be a fine answer.
Yeah.
Sure. And everyone would clap their little hands and
very
say,
politely.
Well done.
Yes.
But would it be definitive? No, it couldn't be.
It would be like, oh, congratulations.
That's right.
Great, you got it. It's like saying like they played Monopoly and then they determined the economy. No.
No.
That was a Thursday night game. Congratulations. I hope you had fun. But ultimately means nothing.
You know your dad let you win, right?
Yeah.
And you would land on Boardwalk and he would say, you don't have to pay me this time.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's not really playing Monopoly.
No, in this scenario, we are the dads.
It's 3 dads.
Uh-huh.
Playing Monopoly for the fate of the world. Honestly.
It's only not true because we don't have children. Literally the only reason it's not true. Omar, before we get into the task at hand and bring in the opinions of our listeners, which, by the way, good showing up, guys.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people write in, more than we'll probably be able to cover, like, everybody's complete lists.
But we'll read every word that you wrote.
Oh, yeah. We've read everything.
I've read every word, but yes, we will get to all of it. But Omar, I want to get into your history with games and your history with the Zelda series and what you like about it, what you like about games. Obviously, you're a big role-playing guy.
Yeah.
Do you consider Breath of the Wild a role-playing game?
Oh, I was hoping we would talk about this. I personally do.
Thank you. That is the correct answer. Because we ranked Breath of the Wild as one of the 8 best RPGs to ever be on a Nintendo platform.
I feel like it's such a great one to throw people into if you're just like, do this.
Just
if you want to get into the
experience. Yeah.
If you want to like play a game like this is one of the best ones. I completely agree, especially on Nintendo.
What do you in video games? Do you gravitate towards role playing, or what sort of games do you like?
Now, this is so funny. I used to live. My brothers and I were not necessarily indoor kids per se, but during the summer we would go with my mom to her work, and then we would just play N64. And that was she used to work at Parents Helping Parents. And so she was like upstairs in the office, like doing stuff, getting like campaigns going, figuring out activities for, parents to come in and do on the weekends. And then we'd be downstairs playing GoldenEye for like 8 hours straight and just lived in those worlds. Smash Brothers was like a huge portion of our summers. And a lot of it was just because it was you can't do a lot else. Like, it's just too hot. So, like, we would take, like, a break to, like, read, like, Goosebumps books and then get back into it. And then also...
This sounds wonderful, by the
way. Perfect. I cannot emphasize how perfect, like, these Nintendo summers were.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of my association is, like, that. And then, like during Christmas break...
Yeah.
Back when it was definitively called Christmas break in our school district. That was like another thing too, is like we would get together, and a huge portion of it was that so many people were playing games at that time that someone could just come over and you could all just jump into a multiplayer game.
Yes.
Or if someone didn't, it was such an inviting culture, especially with Nintendo games, to be like, just hop in. Here's the controller. Here's a few things you need to know. We can do a collaborative thing, or we can just also set them all to NPCs and sit back. Like,
and because I remember I was working as a hall director at the college that I had just graduated from when the Wii came out. So I remember having, I would just have my door open all the time because I that's how I approached working as a hall director, which is like everyone can just come in and hang out all the time. So in a dorm setting. And we played Twilight Princess. I say we, even though like I was always the one playing it. There were just like people like filing in and out, and just like it felt like such a like cool collaborative cooperative effort. People being like, "Oh, you got that gear thing? We saw these tracks here, 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 and here, and don't forget on the world map they're out here too." And so like I don't know, the whole thing just felt so like connective and cool.
Yeah, it is. There's such a. I feel like. You get that sense that there's so many brains around you all contributing to the environment.
Yeah.
Like collectively, where you're just like, oh, that tree. We got to remember that tree. We don't see it anymore.
Right.
Because the camera is limited. But we got to remember that we have to like bury something by the tree.
Is
Yeah, exactly.
That crack in that wall looks like no other cracks in walls.
Keep that in mind.
And remember it. So what kind of games have you been playing lately? You said it sounded like you were setting up you used to play these kinds of games.
Yeah. So my attention level and I suppose maybe time dedication has faltered so much. Like I used to, I think a few years ago I was cranking out like a ton of like Fallout and Red Dead Redemption and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would just like sit for hours and just gallop around. I wouldn't even like do anything. I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna go for a ride. And now I am just a complete like Steam indie game junkie.
Yeah.
Or super fun retro stuff like the old Roller Coaster Tycoon. That's
you were sitting across the table from a Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Like when the classic version became available on iPad, it was
changed everything.
So many hours into that game.
Yeah. I lost. Yeah, and it's just I was like, and I now smart enough. Like I have books on Imagineering in my apartment, so I was like, I can beat this game. And that was a very horrible place to enter into. So now I've gotten a lot more into kind of seeing, I think what I've gotten more into lately is stuff that if I were to dedicate more time and more resources and attention, I might be able to start writing or designing stuff. And I think that's kind of where my mind is, like what's like close to me as like a writer or like a creator. I know very little about like how to actually make video games like happen and put them in front of people. But like I live in Culver City and IndieCade is like just down the road, and so I'm just like, oh, but it's so close, and it's such like a opportunity, and so that's kind of where I am now. Also, I'm not
so like in terms of like you're attracted to like the storytelling potential of games, or just like the sort of experiential part of games.
I think kind of both, because I feel like a lot of the super flagship Nintendo stuff. Are these sweeping narratives that are, in my opinion, like almost better than blockbuster movies.
Sure.
Like when I jump into like a Zelda game, I'm like I'm getting more like this to me is like more thrilling than like a Pirates of the Caribbean film. And because of that, I think it's like such a huge world and such a huge thing to tackle. Whereas now, because we have access to like so many indie games, it's something where it's like the simple storytelling elements of like, if there's a blue character that's painting stuff blue and there's a red character painting stuff red, how can you make an experience out of that?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so much of that like sort of hyper condensed storytelling, or that sort of like atmospheric or just like passive storytelling.
Yeah.
That like games need to fill out that world. Like you mentioned Breath of the Wild, but like the actual forward narrative of that game is pretty thin.
Yep.
And it's all about this incredible world that you get to inhabit, and the sort of story that's implied by every building you pass, everything you pick up, every person that's like scared of something bad happening again. But yeah, so that just having that like hyper condensed, largely visual storytelling is also really attractive to me, and something that I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of storytelling that I like and I get excited about. It's a lot of what I like chase in comics too.
Yes.
Like nothing will excite me more than when they're like, this is going to be a silent comic, and I'm like, yes, I don't want to have to read a word. Tell me the story other ways.
Yeah, there was a Justice League comic. This is a while ago. I think this was maybe 2010, when there was like a first round Justice League reboot, and it turned out that
like pre New 52.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. It was like Jim Lee was like, by the way, we're rebooting, and everyone's like, you
what?
can't reboot a universe? Are you insane?
I've done it like 4 times since then.
Yeah. I don't know how many zero issues I have now, but and you found out that they're trying to like the building. I think it was like a building was crumbling, and I think Quiver or someone was like trying to climb out, and then saw water like above his head, and realized he was upside down the whole time. And you realize that the entire issue,
oh great,
all the panels were upside down.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is what I want. Like
this is all
cool.
I want.
That's really cool.
I just want an experience that only this medium can deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of crazy weird stuff, and I feel like there's so many like indie games doing such a good job with like horror experience and stuff like that, or even just like now like there's like ones that imitate like AOL Instant Messenger, and you're just like messaging someone and they're just like, I'm depressed, and you're like, oh god, I'm feeling so much right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, what's the name of that game? I can't remember the name in it, but something was away, is away. Catherine is away.
Oh,
Not Catherine.
what is the
Sarah?
Sarah is away.
I'm not sure.
We are getting the name of this game wrong. It's okay.
But we will get it right.
I don't know if that's true.
But rest assured, if we did not get the name of the game right, that's because so much of our brain power is focused on getting the best Zelda NPC right.
Oh, that's 100% where my mind is.
Yeah. But before we move off of like indie games and the kind of experiences they give, what you mentioned horror. Is there like a go-to indie horror game that comes to mind for you?
That's a good question. I'm going through my Steam library right now in my head, but I'm distracted because I recently found an old TV that I could plug my GameCube into.
Oh.
And so I've been replaying Resident, especially because Halloween's right around the corner.
Yes.
And every Halloween I play Resident Evil 4, and now I get to do it on the GameCube.
What a great tradition.
And showing some friends the game for the first time is one of my favorite experiences. Where they're like, "Wait, where are we? Why are we getting yelled at in Spanish?" I'm like, "Oh,
just hold
wait
on
for the
tight.
chainsaw.
Wait till you see the castle." Things only get weirder from here. So Zelda, specifically Zelda.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Zelda game?
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask.
I think it's Majora's Mask because I think that it is so. Maybe I'm just in my mindset because Halloween's around the corner again.
It's still true. Halloween is still around the corner.
And that'll always, even if it's like November 1st, when you're listening
right,
to this. Yeah, it is right around the corner. It's just a very big corner. Just wait.
Right.
Just be a little patient about this corner.
Like a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll be Halloween
Just
again.
give us a hot second, please.
So you're sort of like gravitating towards the like horror sort of like spooky elements of Majora's Mask.
There was someone. The stakes in that game were so high.
Yeah.
And all the other games like Breath of the Wild, I feel like it's such a beautiful world. The lighting just gets better and better with every Zelda game, in my opinion. But there was something about that game where I think it was kind of the first time I was starting to see the entire franchise take form.
Yeah.
And then characters were kind of going through stuff. I mean, we'll discuss specific characters, I'm sure, associated with this very famous game in a second. But seeing people affected and those characters undergo changes from magical masks and stuff, I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like, this is...
Yeah. Well, Mark and I were just talked last week about Link's Awakening and A Link Between Worlds, but specifically in Link's Awakening, talking about how that's where you start to see super weird characters in the series for the first time.
Yes.
And I feel like if that's where it's set up, it is like drilled home in Majora's Mask that like, no, every single person in this universe is a huge weirdo.
Yep.
And they have like their own bizarre desires, and they're all like embarrassed by strange things, and they're all excited by even stranger things. And so I think it's an awesome place to start pulling some of like our favorite characters from.
Yeah.
But are we ready to get into this, guys?
I think we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we like put like our friendship on pause and enter like a war room situation for the next?
I think so. I think
Okay,
we can do a whatever happens at the podcast table stays at the podcast table.
I kind of think we're going to have to.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. We all came with a couple characters. Our listeners are going to introduce about 30 more. And then we are going to kill our babies until we are down to one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be insane.
So before we start,
yes,
I just want you guys to know that I love you.
Yes.
But
Yes.
whatever happens, like, this could get ugly.
Yeah.
This could get ugly. It will get ugly. And for a moment, I will hate you both. But as soon as we stop recording, we'll be back to friends.
It's a professional hatred.
Yes, it's a professional hatred and a healthy one, I think. So first, before we get started, and we're going to read as much stuff from our listeners as we can, I want to start with an email from Alex. And Alex says, before I get to my list, I want to acknowledge a few things. So, thing number 1, you can play as both Medley and Makar in Wind Waker, but I feel like they still count as NPCs. How do you guys feel about that? Medley and Makar, they are the little like helpers that help you in one dungeon each. Still kind of count as NPCs, even though you are momentarily playing as them.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'll count it.
Okay, we allow it. Thank you.
I'll
Alex.
count it because I'm not worried because we're looking at the end of the road here. This is the
Right,
marathon,
exactly.
so I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Right. Pick your battles. Alex's second observation, I feel like other characters may be playable in special circumstances in other games, but my mind is blanking right now. Fine. I agree with that. Number 3, any form of Zelda or Ganondorf should be disqualified because Ganondorf is boring and Zelda is too good. Thoughts on that?
Too good in what regard? And I'm fine with discount, like not including either of them in the conversation. I'm curious.
I'm a little curious as to what too good means in this context as well.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe too foundational to the mythology of the series.
Oh, sure. Like it's an easy pick. It is the Legend of Zelda after all.
Kind of like a which is your friendliest Pokemon? It's like, well, it's probably Pikachu. We're
It's
talking about
probably
like,
gonna be the Pikachu.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a little bit of like a nut. Sure,
Yeah, it's a gimme.
that does take
Yeah.
some away from certain characters that would probably be very much at the top of the list from the get go. So okay,
Yeah.
So
Let's spice it up.
We agree to those terms.
Yep.
Just jumping down to the end of Alex's email, he says, "P.S. Maybe you guys should consider ranking just the versions of Zelda across the series. So maybe at
Ooh.
a separate time,
Ooh.
we
Yes.
put all of the Zeldas on a board and say who is the best Zelda in Zelda.
That's a great
that's
idea.
a bracket.
That-
yeah,
yeah. It's exactly. It's a bracket.
It's a perfect bracket. We Alex, we are stealing that idea. Thank you for offering it up. So Zelda and Ganondorf off the table.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, okay. Were they on anybody's list? Like,
They are on some of our listeners' lists, but I do not have.
I think probably for honestly similar reasons.
Yeah.
Or the same reason. I don't think I included certain characters.
I like so Ganondorf. I feel like, or Ganon full stop. I feel like is an interesting villain only because we have so much history with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ganon in and of himself is not very interesting.
See, I think the only exception to that is in Wind Waker, where like he's the only one who like really knows what's going on the whole time.
That's true. That's a good point.
And like he's this like holdover from like an ancient world, and like is trying to bring it back. Or I forget exactly how the plot machinations of Wind Waker work, but like he is so much more interesting in that game. And even still, I think we've got a lot more interesting options to go through.
I kind of feel the same way about Zelda. Like, I don't find Zelda very interesting, and maybe that's because I'm gay. But I find her very boring.
Mark, you cannot always appeal to that line of logic.
I
Maybe
can.
it's because I'm gay.
I'm pretty sure I can. That's how I start every sentence.
It's true. I painstakingly edited out of every episode the 400 times Mark starts a sentence with maybe because I'm gay.
I love that was like your like caveat, but I do feel like that just shone a light on like all like the Zelda fans are like so interesting. So she's so interesting. You're like, is she though? And it's like a second where like, everyone's like, wait a minute. Maybe I've been projecting my whole life.
Okay, point number 4 for Alex, and this one I think I will push back on. He says, I feel like maybe you guys should separate each game's guides into a separate list, i.e. Midna, the King of Red Lions, Eslo, etc.
Oh.
I mean, again, none of the ones I'm coming to the table with fall into that category, so I'm indifferent. But
I did bring one of the guide characters.
Okay.
too.
I have a guide character.
Oh, well, see, there we go. So we kind of have
Interesting.
to include them. Although I also think, Alex, that's a great idea for a separate list.
Yeah,
is
just
the best
guides.
guide in. So putting that one in our back pocket as well.
Episode ideas for days. And then number 5, Impa shouldn't be excluded. I did say on a previous episode that we were going to exclude Impa, but fine. Impa should not be excluded.
Fine. She's not excluded.
Fine.
She's not on the list. She's
We'll
not the best.
see how it plays out. Yeah. We will obey such rules.
Yeah.
And then Alex has 5 picks. Do we want to go through his 5 picks now?
That seems fair because we're stealing his
are-
ideas.
We're stealing his ideas
Yeah,
and
so that seems
using a lot of his.
that seems right.
All right. So he's got 5 picks in no particular order, he
Okay.
says.
Mhm.
The Deku Tree, extremely important to Link's character in Ocarina of Time. Such a cool character that he has returned in other games. How do we feel about the Great Deku Tree?
That's a good one.
That's very good.
Is it weird that it dies like a couple minutes after you meet it?
No, I feel like that's almost like the perfect beginning for that game because there's so much like childlike wonder at the very beginning, and then it's just like also things can be sad in this world.
Also, your childlike wonder can die. Yeah, I feel like Deku Tree is pretty good, and yeah, they keep bringing him back. He's foundational to that mythology. So
yeah, it's actually, I guess, I was gonna say it's weird that he only first showed up in Ocarina of Time, but I guess, and he's so foundational, but I guess it's not that weird because Ocarina of Time is so foundational to what Zelda is now.
Right.
Well, Ocarina of Time is what, the 5th game in the series, right? Zelda 2, Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and then 64.
Yeah.
So it's well, it feels like a later like iteration of the game. Like that was a long time ago.
No, it's probably like 60 years ago
Yeah,
at this
that's
point,
right.
as we turn to dust while we're recording this podcast.
We don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Alex is number 2, Skull Kid. Very cool how a little NPC from a side quest in Ocarina of Time became such a great complex villain in the next game.
I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about.
Right?
A little bit earlier.
Yeah, and I like that there are like the 2 sides to Skull Kid.
Yes.
That there is the one side of him that is the sort of mischievous but mostly well-meaning
Playing
forest
music
nymph.
on a tree stump.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dancing around. But is also drawn to a mask of infinite evil, and with it enacts some terrible destruction on the town of Termina.
Yep.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Right. We
Who
can
hasn't?
all. It's for puberty. It's a metaphor.
Yeah. That's called your 20s. That's what Majora's Mask is actually about.
The world ends every 3 days. That is true in your 20s. So I feel like we're going to come back to Skull Kid a couple times throughout this. And did any of you bring Skull Kid as one of yours?
Not on my list.
Skull Kid was in one of my like orbited if my others are like tackled very well, I
Right.
would mention Skull Kid. So
Okay. Well, that's just we'll keep the skull kid in the back of our head here. Number 3, Happy Mask Salesman.
I have Happy Mask Salesman
Me
on my list.
too.
Oh,
Okay.
this is potentially a strong contender.
This is a strong contender. I feel like both of these are actually super strong contenders, and I see come up a lot in the listener submissions.
Mhm.
Why don't you guys give your arguments for the Happy Mask Salesman?
Go ahead, Omar. You can go first.
It's just this. Like a character like Happy Mask Salesman for me pulls this out of like video game into a greater like myth and legend, and that's what I love about this character. There's so much hinted at, and still so much happens with the character. Like you're like, I only have a little bit of time to spend with this character, and if we follow this character around for a few more years, it would be like 7 Miyazaki movies would happen like simultaneously.
Right, like accidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
would just trip through them.
It's also, I just love the sort of the stakes with the salesman, where it's just like, I've got all this magic and there's like music associated with it, but also sometimes my stuff gets jacked,
Right.
And it could be the end of the world. You know, like it's just kind of that, like it kind of like that's a nice grounded action story for me. It's just like these characters are not like gods and like Olympians that have like a lot of security and stuff like that. No, it's like, no, this is like magic is all around us, and then some person can totally just like get their stuff jacked.
Right, and like what's more like kind of grounded in like blue collar than like picking up those magical objects and being like, I bet I could sell this.
Yep.
Just trying to make an honest buck.
And for me, the Happy Mask Salesman, like his presentation in Majora's Mask
insane.
is like so memorable. Like I remember playing that for the first time, being fairly young, and like it's pretty unsettling. Like I found it unsettling. Like it's like
the way they animate the character, right? Because he'll just like rapid shift from like one pose to another, and he's the only character that they do in that way. And you can see like in the background, it's not as though like they're presenting a time jump. Like we're not cutting ahead to a couple seconds later, because you can see like a flame in the background, like moving at the same speed, or someone walking by.
He's just like very like polite and happy, and then like, you know, he's like totally like distraught, and I don't know, it's he's really cool. And like Omar was saying, like you're saying, like this idea that like there's so much hinted at, but I never need an explanation for what's like really going on with Happy Mask Salesman, because you know, like the unknown is so much more interesting than if they were to like, and now let's see him with his family.
Yeah, right. The origin story. How do you get the mask?
How do you get his first mask?
How do you get that mask?
Why does he wear purple?
What's up with that Mario reference? You're like, I actually don't want to know.
Right.
I like literally
it does not matter.
So another thing I wanted to bring up about the Happy Mask Salesman, who I do think is fascinating. I don't have him on my list. We got an email from Jason, and Jason puts forth 2 other characters from other games. I just want to read his descriptions here and talk about how they relate to the Happy Mask Salesman. He says, first, the overly enthusiastic, depressed salesman from Skyward Sword. Do you know this guy? His name is Rupin. He tries to sell you stuff in Skyloft, and he is very invested in Link buying something. So he, like, you approach the table and he does this like hands together thing like the Happy Mask Salesman does, and sort of like follows you to each item as you like try to pick it up, and he gets really upset when you don't buy anything. Like he's got hints of the Happy Mask Salesman to him. And then Jason's second character, he says, secondly, the moonwalking Mallow Mart salesman from Twilight Princess. This character's name is Chudley. I looked it up.
That's a great name.
The surprising switch that happens when the high-class store is taken over by Mallow left me gasping with laughter, he says. So this is the guy who runs the store in like the Castle Town, and Mallow, who's like a weird baby character, like takes it over at some point. And so this guy is also got a little bit of like the qualities of the Happy Mask Salesman, where he is selling stuff, he's overly enthusiastic, but like kind of turns on you on a dime and like will get kind of like creepy and weird. So I think the Happy Mask Salesman, this is a type. This is like the otherworldly merchant type is a pillar in the same, maybe not in the same way that Zelda and Ganondorf are, but like he is a foundational part of the Zelda mythos as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Beetle kind of falls into that. Like he's
Yeah,
a little
sure.
more skittish, but like he's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and I do think that of all of these merchants that we've mentioned so far, that the Happy Mask Salesman is like the most prototypical version of that and the most unsettling. So I will support so far like this play. Like I think we've got an early leader here.
I agree.
Also, why is there no Happy Mask Salesman amiibo? That's one I would actually buy.
Yeah.
And the bigger that it would be, which is like his like giant like pack of
Oh yeah, make it life size.
Make it huge. Sorry. Back to Alex's email. Good discussion on the Happy Mask Salesman, guys.
Yeah. This is great. We're carving out some ground here.
We are. So his number 4 is Mallow, the aforementioned weird baby.
Right.
While the world is ending around him, all of his friends were in all these dire circumstances, Mallow decided as an infant to try entrepreneurship. It is funny. It is weird. It is
funny.
It almost crosses the line for me of like, it's almost like too weird.
Okay.
Right.
I'm gonna here's my line in the sand. No character from Twilight.
I will fight you.
No character,
you son of a bitch,
from Twilight Princess.
Oh,
they're like too weird, too grotesque looking. Like, no, thank you. Hard pass. Hard pass for me. Maybe it's because I'm gay.
No
characters.
I'm telling it doesn't always work.
From
it works
Twilight
a lot,
Princess
but it does not always work.
are on this list.
When they were doing character designs for Twilight, they were just like, I don't know. This might be too heteronormative of a design, guys. This might be too heteronormative of a design.
Mallow, too heteronormative.
Yeah.
Okay, Mallow thrown out for reasons of heteronormativity. And then Alex's last suggestion is Errol, who is Link's sister in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Because we so rarely actually get a like relative character.
You
that
get a
sticks
grandma
around.
in Wind Waker as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she makes that soup.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that where you get your like clothes, like your tunic or whatever?
Yeah, but you have to change out of those cool like island pajamas.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive her for that.
Yeah.
Making me change out of
Typical
my island.
grandma.
Typical grandma. Get dressed. You'll get cold on the sea. Okay. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Jason, for those. Very helpful so far. Oh, guys, where do we want to go next here?
Well, is there anybody else from Majora's Mask that is on anybody's personal list?
Omar, do you have anyone from Majora's Mask on anyone else besides the mask salesman?
I threw Tattle down.
Okay, so the helper, the guide
Yeah.
character, yeah.
For the reasons of it kind of Tattle expands the universe. It's also like a nice cheeky name because Tattle's brother, right? Is what's Tattle's brother's name?
Oh yeah, the other fairy.
And like it's the Tail.
Tattletale.
Yeah.
Right.
Taeel. So I just like that. So I threw down Tattle because also I just like the fact that we got to go from like barking commands to like a nice wind chime, and I was like, for the second it started.
It really is like a hard course correction.
Yeah. Hey, it's the ding, and you're like,
Listen.
Great.
Okay. I think the way to tackle this now is let's get some short submissions from listeners here. How about that?
Okay, perfect.
Some lightning rounds.
Yeah, some lightning rounds. Edward puts forth Bolson from Breath of the Wild.
This is the builder?
Yeah,
like this designer guy?
This is the builder designer guy. I was emailing with Edward after he sent us this email, and I, in my head, mistook Bolson for Hudson. And Hudson is the other one of the builders who like starts Terrytown, and like it's his wedding that you like go to when you like build up his town and all that. But Bolson is cool too. He's got this weird like pink bandana thing and like a fashionable jacket.
I mean, Bolson's definitely gay, right? Like
Definitely,
even in
yeah.
the game, you're just like this dude.
Oh, he's
gay.
definitely gay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because he's got like a dude that works for him who is also definitely gay, right? Like they're like finding solace together
Support
in
the community.
Hyrule.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Bolson's like the Queer Eye introduction for
He is!
He
Zelda.
really is.
He
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
That's probably the best facial hair you'll see in Hyrule, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, again, this could be another list. So, I don't know that we
Definitive
want
best beards in Hyrule.
I don't know if we want to burn this. But yeah, Bolson's is pretty solid.
Edward also nominates Bonsai from Breath of the Wild. Or Bozai, sorry. I inserted an N. This is the dude that's hanging out in the desert who wants to date one of the Gerudo. And if you go up to him dressed in the Desert by outfit, he like hits on you and gives you the snow boots. That's the only way to get snow boots. But I don't like this character.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Not married, but thank you for the snow boots.
Yes. I will take the snow boots.
Yeah.
James offers the Great Fairy from A Link to the Past. Specifically, he says, the one behind the waterfall in A Link to the Past that upgrades your boomerang for free. No one else does that. Try upgrading your boomerang at Walmart or Target for free. They'll just laugh at you.
They won't do it.
They won't.
I like this. I think Great Fairy again is another like pillar of these games. What are y'all's favorite Great Fairies in Zeldas?
Breath of the Wild is definitely up there for me.
Yeah. How they will like grab you and like pull you into their flower for God knows what.
I would agree for that reason. Like it's just like such a fun, like Alice in Wonderland-y kind of touch.
Yeah. I think their animations are really funny. Like when they like come out of the like fountain and then they're like leaning against the the
like,
edge of it
really
and everything.
showing a lot of cleavage.
Yeah. But also again, this is a lot of it is just nostalgia, but the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask Great Fairy.
Yeah.
It's a disturbing sprite.
It's
it's very memorable.
The polygons, like
Uh-huh.
It's very. There's a lot of strange angles there.
Yeah.
Lots of angles.
Yeah. Again, lighting gets better and better.
Yeah, just gets better. I also like the Dark World fairy in A Link to the Past, the one that is like fat. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like in the Dark World, there's a great fairy in a fountain where it's the fountain where you're just like throwing rupees in forever, and then she upgrades your arrows and bombs.
Yes.
She's like a fairy, but in the Dark World, she's fat. That's it.
Do you know what's one of the really cool things in Breath of the Wild is, there's like all the great fairy fountains.
Yeah.
And then there's also like that horse fountain, like the weird like horse god thing that will like resurrect your dead horses.
Yes.
Like, and you're just like, this is so weird and kind of creepy. And
does anyone have that horse god thing on your list?
No,
neither do I. But
the
that's
Kelpie sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so weird. That's cool. All right, next, Isaac puts forth Rivali from Breath of the Wild.
Not even my favorite champion.
Wow, who's your favorite champion?
Probably the Gerudo one.
Yeah, Daruk.
Yeah.
No, Urbosa.
Yes.
Urbosa. Yeah, I like all the champions. And I like Rivali's Gale a lot.
Yeah, that was the first one I got super useful.
Yeah, flying all over everywhere. I don't know. I like that Rivali's kind of a jerk. Like I think this is a good pick.
Which is your favorite champion?
Oh God, come back to me. I'm gonna have to think about that.
Okay,
because I don't want to answer wrong.
That is wise. Lance says, I'm going to choose an NPC from Zelda 2 because it's actually one of my favorite Zelda games, which I first played when I was a kid. I'm going to choose the healing lady from the towns. It's always been such a mystery to me. You go into her house and exit with full health. What happens in there? What is she doing to you?
Okay.
He's not the only person who suggested the healing lady from Zelda 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's quite the following.
It's not. I don't think this is one that I can support. She's barely a character.
We also had somebody write in, I think on Twitter.
Yeah.
And
we will get to some of these Twitter ones.
Say like, I am error.
Yeah. So we got a submission from J. Edgar, he wrote, you say there needs to be a discussion about the best Zelda NPC, but let's be honest. There's only one NPC to rule them all, the one whose usefulness and presence reaches far beyond any Zelda game, and it is Error, who all he does is announce himself as Error.
Yeah.
None of the characters in Zelda 2 are character enough, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree.
To be on this list.
I respect the choice of the healing lady, but it's not one that I can personally support.
Error almost to me, and I don't mean for this to sound rude. I really want to preface that. I really want to preface with that.
Yes.
So, Edgar, please keep that in mind. I kind of feel like Error goes on the other side of the spectrum in the best way possible, where like the worst NPC, because it's like a sign being like, this is a sign, and you're just like, that's art, man. Like, like that's, I feel like Error is like modern art in a video game. It's like, I'm Error, like, perfect. Amazing.
Don't change a thing.
Changed my life. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hard to call him a character, though, I guess, is what I'm saying. For artistic merit, 100%. But otherwise, I don't know. So here's an interesting one. Catherine writes, the best Zelda NPC of all time is Salvatore from The Wind Waker. She refers to a video on Pug Hoof Gaming that explains why Salvatore is so cool. So if you are interested in that, look for that. But Salvatore is the guy who runs two of the games in. Where's this guy? Sorry, we've got pictures here helping us out.
Yeah.
He runs the sinking ship and barrel shooting games in Wind Waker. And this guy is bored all the time. He's like leaning over. He had dreams of one time being a famous painter. But instead he is just running these carnival games. But the thing is, once you actually engage him in these carnival games, he gets like these little cardboard cutouts that and he becomes these characters and acts them out. And when you're playing the sinking ship game, he's making sound effects. He's going like kaboom, or like splash when you miss one of them. So like the argument that is made in this Pug Hoof Gaming video and that Kat is pulling for here is that he had such lofty dreams and lofty goals, but could not live up to that, so he finds and makes art in the crappy job that he had to settle for.
Guys,
yes,
cards on the table. This is my pick.
Really?
For the best Zelda NPC, 100%.
Wow.
He's so relatable. It's so, right? Like, he's just trying to make some cash so he can, like, do the thing that he really loves. He's working this, like, job that he doesn't care that much about, just, to make ends meet. All the way. This is my pick. 100%.
He's a good pick. Omar, you seem speechless.
I hadn't considered, but now I'm thinking about the fact that he's a game dev in a game. That's like really
yeah. And he's trying to bring like drama and action and like excitement to it any way he can. And again, it's the same thing that we were talking about. Like, he's working with the medium he has.
Yep.
So, I mean, he may also be, if Error is like the art that we aspire to, he is the artist that we aspire to.
Right.
Absolutely. So I, obviously I'm a little bit biased because he's my pick for number one, but I think he goes with Skull Kid. Oh no, sorry, Happy Mask Salesman. Oh, and
I think Skull Kid too. I think so far these are the three characters that we have to consider. We should be writing these down. Yes, so I'll do that here. So Happy Mask Salesman and Skull Kid also have to go in our final discussion. And the thing about Salvatore is that I don't think he is foundational, though. Like, which almost makes him more like precious, right?
Oh yeah, he's in Wind Waker. I think he shows up in Phantom Hourglass as well.
Is,
like doing the same sort of like mini pirate themed mini games.
Right. But cool pick, great pick. I like it a lot. Next, Anonymous Brosif suggests the witch that makes potions in A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds.
Ooh.
What do we think about the witch?
I have no strong opinion.
Little thin on the character side. Her daughter, I think, is one of the 7 sages in A Link Between Worlds. which I guess makes her a little bit more interesting. But I think for the most part, she's like a not super personality shopkeep.
Kind
right?
of a cooler role than a character. If I have to like start splitting hairs, where I'm just like, you do really cool stuff, but in terms of like character,
Very thin.
stuff,
Yeah,
yes.
I like you a lot, but we're in the war room, so yeah, I think it's
And I think for all of these characters, we put them up against, say, the merchant from Resident Evil 4, and we say better or worse. And if worse, then they shouldn't be included.
right. Buying or selling,
Right.
Yep.
What do you buy? I'll buy it at a high price. So the witch from those games, we're gonna say probably does not make it into our final go here. Nicholas says, this one is so obvious to me, it's not even funny. There are many great characters who you build friendships or rivalries with in Legend of Zelda, but maybe the best character in the whole series is Hilda from A Link Between Worlds. Do I need to continue? Is what he says. I would say maybe a little bit more explanation of why Hilda is the best character would be nice.
I mean, remind me which one Hilda is?
Sure. Hilda is the low rule Zelda.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
there's Hyrule and Low Rule.
Right.
And for the three main characters in Hyrule, there are Low Rule counterpoints, and Zelda's is Hilda.
Of course.
That's
and
right.
There's like a Bioshock type twist at the end.
That's right, because
Yeah.
it turns out that she has sent you on this quest to get the Triforce so that she can restore her own kingdom at the expense of yours. So she is both like the heroine and villain of the game, which is interesting. I think it makes the game more interesting. But I think, and this is reveals one of my favorites, is I like Ravio, the salesman. So like continuing in the salesman / Link analog in Low Rule from that same game, Link Between Worlds, as my favorite NPC. Someone else put him forth as theirs, so I'm going to read.
What is it about the merchants?
I don't know. The merchants are interesting, right?
And is it because like Nintendo also finds them interesting and is like, so because a lot of them have the most personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, they're travelers. A lot of Zelda stuff is like artifacts and like it's tangential story, or not tangential. Sorry, like tangible.
Yeah.
You hold things and move things.
And a lot of them are like collectors, like they're obsessive
Yeah.
about like very specific things. Like
Well, yeah,
they have a lot of the most like specific characterizations.
And,
Yeah.
like the strongest personalities. We were talking again last week about Link's Awakening, and you can steal from that merchant, and then when you get back into his shop later, he kills you.
Yep.
He's like, you won't steal from me again,
And he
thief.
zaps you with like lightning.
Yeah, so like all of the merchants have like some kind of personality, which like they totally don't need. How many Final Fantasy games have I played where it's just like a dude behind a counter? Like, who cares? But Ravio, going back to A Link Between Worlds, he shows up in Hyrule and just takes over your house. It's like a total baller move. He just sets up shop there and abandons his own house in Low Rule, which when you do encounter it, it is just listed as like empty house or something like that. You don't even know that it's his that he left behind. But so Dustin, who wrote in with a whole bracket for
look at that.
16 characters that he pitted against each other in 4 different categories: villains, partners, sages, and other. He had Ravio in the other category, and Ravio goes on to win it all.
Wow.
He says, I love a good redemption story, so it just feels right to have him defeat Ganondorf in the finals. Oh, I guess his finals were Ganondorf v. Ravio. So he likes a good redemption story, which he was referring to his bracket. He says, also claiming squatters' rights on the house, then convincing the rightful owner to continuously pay you for the privilege of using the weapons that you know will solve the problem is a pretty baller move.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I would like to put forth that Ravio, while being a one-time character, is both the merchant type and the Link type and should belong in our final consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw him. Yeah.
Throw them in. I think that's
This
everything.
is getting heated up.
It's getting heated up. We've got 4 serious contenders at the moment. Yes, I think that's what we can use from Dustin's, and what we can use from. So back to Hilda. We think probably not. We like Hilda, but we don't love her.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had that rule of like proxy characters, right?
Well,
Were we adhering to that? I forget.
I don't know.
That was half an hour
Well,
ago.
she's like the Wario version of Zelda.
Right.
And we said no Zeldas.
Yeah.
So
Right. I mean,
fare thee well, Hilda.
I mean, one of the building blocks of this is no links, obviously.
Yeah.
And like, is Ravio kind of a link? Yeah. So,
But we like him.
we
Yeah.
like him. We like him,
And
and
we're
he's,
bending the rules.
well, and also we are drawn to this merchant character.
That's right.
I think
Yeah.
we may end up going with the Happy Mask Salesman. We may have hit on it early.
I'm upset.
Stay tuned in.
I'm
Look,
upset.
I win. We are going to fight it out still. We are not done. We've got a lot more to go through. Got sort of a lengthy email here from Emma. Shall we dig in? She's got an interesting pick.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
First, Emma prefaces by saying, before I begin, I just want to point out that I was the very first listener to borrow Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces. I'm not saying this should give my specific choice of NPC greater weight in your final decision, but then again, it's clear that I'm a true trailblazer in the forest of this podcast fan base.
That's a fair
Okay.
point.
Fair point.
We're
Emma.
we are going to weight things in Emma's favor.
That's a +3 modifier.
Yeah.
That's true. So if you could just roll.
Uh,
She says the best NPC from a Zelda game is none other than Maggie. Maggie who, she says? Well, I'll enlighten you. This NPC makes a few appearances throughout your journey in Wind Waker. To begin with, she is tragically part of the group of girls kidnapped by Ganon, along with your in-game sister Errol. It's not until later in the game, after you rescue the girls from the Forsaken Fortress, that her story truly begins. It truly comes to the forefront. After being rescued, she resides in the lavish mansion on Windfall Island. Her prison rags and lank hair are swapped for a royal purple dress and ringlet curls. When you speak to her, though, something very bizarre, even for a Zelda game, comes to light. She asks Link for a favor. Send a letter to her lover that she met on the Forsaken Fortress. Her father doesn't approve of the match, hence the need to involve Link in the affair. So, who is the lucky man who gets the letter, you ask? Well, his name is Mo. And he's not a man at all. He's a moblin. Yes, a literal horned pig-like monster who works for Ganon, the force of evil incarnate. Suddenly, I was on her father's side. Link, always non-judgmental, delivers the letter. When Maggie receives the barely legible reply, she says Mo has sent her a wedding proposal. She is delighted and says that she's going to set sail for this Forsaken Fortress the next day. However, she never actually leaves because she knows she could never abandon her father. Anyway, Maggie is my favorite choice for NPC because her story is equal parts fascinating and horrifying. Seriously, I'd rather have played a game from her perspective to see how that relationship with Mo the Moblin could possibly have blossomed while she was being held captive.
Emma, that is solid.
That's a great
It's
argument.
Awesome, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we've got to include Maggie in our list, and not just because Emma was the first person who borrowed my copy of Sonic Forces.
No, but it just shows that good things happen to people who borrow your copy
Yep.
of Sonic Forces. And
That's
where
right.
would they send their mailing address, Patrick?
You can send your mailing address to Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
and I'll put you on the list of people who get my copy of Sonic Forces. Then.
Yeah, it's like a grim tale right there.
It
like all on
is
its
a
own.
grim tale.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I also just love, like Emma was saying, that Maggie doesn't end up leaving.
Yeah.
Yes,
That poor Moblin.
Mo.
Mo.
Yeah, I mean, Maggie's father got a point. I don't. Moblins, they're animals. Am I sounding racist? They're animals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
yeah.
are.
No.
Yeah.
Omar and I are agreeing you are sounding racist.
Yeah, that was the
That's
yeah.
what-
Yes,
that's
okay,
what
good.
the
That, yeah,
was
was
Thank
coming
you,
from
thank
there.
I mean, they're animals.
Yeah, they're
Maggie's a great pick.
That's a great pick.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Emma. Martin writes in, and Martin actually wrote us immediately after our RPG episode, saying that he he regretted not writing in to contribute to that list. He likened it to sitting out the 2016 election or the Brexit vote. He said, now I understand what those people are going through. He says, to exercise my democratic right, I propose Tingle.
I'm so glad that someone's bringing Tingle up.
Tingle's on my list.
Tingle's on your
list.
I mean, he, in my opinion, he's a little bit of a gimme in like not the way that Link, Zelda, and like Ganon are, but in the way that you're like, oh yeah, Tingle is obviously the best NPC that's coming out of Zelda. He's like, dude is great.
Tingle's nuts. I don't know if I like him as much. I think he's interesting. I love that they keep putting him in these games and just being like, no, it's Tingle. Tingle's there. Like we're talking about like types of other characters that show up repeatedly, but Tingle is just Tingle. And he's like a 37-year-old man who wants to be a fairy.
Yep.
Right?
I'm laughing just thinking
like
about looking at his picture.
Reincarnate or something, according to Tingle. Yeah, and has like a balloon that like he draws maps from, right? Like he's like a cartographer or something.
Well, and I cannot express how much I love that like there are some people who hate Tingle,
loathe him. Yes.
Loathe him, and that makes me love the fact that Nintendo's like, we're making spin-off games about him.
Right.
Like all the more.
I wish we had those games in the States. Like, because they just bring them out in Japan. They're like, we're not even gonna
try.
This
market won't.
Maybe they do like a Kirby, like in Japan he has happy like brows, and in America he has like intense brows. Like they do something with like that with Tingle
with bullets in it.
Exactly. Yeah, I give him a bazooka.
One of my favorite things about Tingle, unless I'm mistaken, I believe Tingle's father is disappointed with Tingle's life choices. And that to me is like breaks out of the game and is just like a strike of reality. And I love that. And I also love that Tingle doesn't like flinch.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, stop doing this. And Tingle's like, no, I'm going to go draw some maps.
I'm going to draw some maps. I'm going to dance around and there are going to be bells when I do it.
Yeah.
There are no bells on my person. It's in my butt or something. Tingle's a magical man. I'll put him on our final list here of potential best NPCs. Okay. Let's tackle Chandler's document here.
This is like
his opus.
Yes.
Chandler put in some real work. So we've got.
You're still flipping through.
I'm still flipping through it. It's a 15-page document with pictures. When Chandler gets to the end, he has a top 6. So we're gonna blow through these top 6 real quick.
Great.
His number 1, I think, is an interesting point of conversation. He writes, Torge.
Yep.
Torge, hold on. Torge Amundsen, who is the speedrunner who holds the world record for Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he basically played a game of cutscenes and backflips that's creating your own character in a game with no character creation. Before you argue that he's not an NPC, talk to Westworld. We can't play Torge's T. And for me, that makes him his own character. He broke the game, so now he gets to break my list. Sorry, not sorry.
Great.
I think that's good for your list, Chandler, but it's not going to break our list, I don't think. His number, so that's his number 0. I think sort of he knows that it's a broken entry.
I appreciate the sci-fi philosophy discussion that comes out of that. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. Can there be a character who is not actually in a Zelda game who could be our best NPC in a Zelda game?
Wow.
I mean, aren't we all the best Zelda NPC?
Whoa.
We're not.
Oh, okay.
Tingle's better than all of us.
Are you Tingle? No? Then no.
I think we are all Tingle. You backed down from that one too quick. So Chandler's picks are Linkle, the female version of Link from Hyrule Warriors, the Skull Kid.
Great.
The King Zora in his many appearances, in particular the Ocarina of Time one that like slowly inches his way.
Oh yeah, love that.
Yes.
Fat fish scoot.
It takes him so long to do it. It takes him so long. Japas, the Zora like guitar guy from Majora's Mask.
Yes.
And Twilight Tweely Midna, the version of Midna that is when she like takes on her human form at the end of
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, Twilight Princess
Twilight
is
Princess.
off the table.
I
so.
will fight that because I do think that Midna is an awesome character. I like Midna.
Minda's on my list.
Minda's on my list as well. Minda goes on our final consideration list.
That's fine.
Because you have this ace up your
she
sleeve.
Won't
You're like,
win, I don't care.
She might. Mark.
I actually like Twilight Princess like as a game.
Yeah, you're
I
coming
like
down
it.
on real,
yeah, I
real
like
hard
it
on
fine, but in Midna is actually a really great character, just like Mallow and stuff like that. I find uncomfortable.
Well, and I also find Midna's design to be a little bit uncomfortable in that like she is both like impish and like she's got this like fertility goddess sort of like pear shape to her.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't know, that's there are very few times in the history of the Zelda series that I have felt like genuine concern for a character. And the part in Twilight Princess where you are Wolf and she is like dying, and you're just like running through Hyrule Field, just like hoping against hope that you're gonna find a way to save her, is like I gave myself goosebumps just now.
Yep.
Like it's one of the times that like I actually feel the narrative weight of the Zelda series. So yeah, I don't know. I like Midna a lot. I like her way more in her like impish form than in the sort of like ladylike form. Maybe because Mark's gay.
You can't use that. That's appropriation.
Sound racist, and then Okay, guys. And then we did have one Twitter thread that we needed to respond to from @SuperGameJoy, who prefaces his list by saying that he's got 5 responses, but some of them are characters or races that are like different iterations throughout the series, which we've sort of encountered here with like the merchant type, for example. His first is the Leviathan. So whether it is the windfish from Link's Awakening or those giant skeletons that populate Breath of the Wild, or even there are flying whale characters in Skyward Sword. So that's one that he puts forth. I back that specifically the windfish is on my list.
Okay.
And part of the reason that the windfish is on my list is that the entirety of Koholint Island is being dreamed by the windfish, which means if you like any character in Link's Awakening, you like the windfish because he is dreaming all of those personalities. So this is a cheat answer as far as I'm concerned. But I like the windfish.
I also like the windfish because it's so weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just like an enormous like whale with itty bitty wings that's like
asleep in an egg.
Like, cool. I'm 100% on board.
Yeah.
I'm 100% on board.
Yeah, I'll put a chip in for that too.
All right, let's put the windfish in our possible final list, which is now up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 8 characters. We're never gonna finish this.
We
guys.
whittled down. We whittled down.
It's true. It's true. The next submission here is the healing lady.
Sorry, Zelda 2, not gonna cut it.
And if it is, it's gonna be error, right? I am error. Third submission from @SuperGameJoy is the Skull Kid.
Yes.
He says of the Skull Kid, the devilishly magical skull children. Children fallen prey to the lost woods, morphed into imps, mischievous devils. They dance and all that good stuff. The argument makes itself.
Yep.
Next on his list, the flute boy in A Link to the Past. This is a sad story.
Oh yeah.
He's a little boy who plays the flute in one world, and then he loses the flute and turns into like a goblin that then also turns into a tree, right? And like his father mourns him.
Yeah.
Mark, you're making a little bit of a face here.
Well, when you're explaining it, it's just like, is this sad or is it confusing?
Yeah, I was confusing myself because he turns into 2 separate things. He's a boy who turns into an animal, a monster who turns into a tree. So maybe it is too confusing.
It is sad.
It is. Oh, for
but
sure.
But it's also awesome because so like from the outside you're like, listen, that's really cool.
Like super sorry about your son. Like for sure, but also that's boss.
Well, yeah.
And then at Super Game Joy's last submission is Zelda herself, Her Majesty, Princess of Light, Princess of Destiny, Princess of Hyrule, Spirit Maiden, Goddess, which would be all well and good if she had not been eliminated from this process early on.
But something to keep in mind for
Battle of the Zeldas.
Are all the Zeldas.
Yeah, well, I mean, he just put forth the concept of Zelda.
And it's a good concept.
Not specific. Yeah.
It's a good concept.
Probably going to win the bracket.
Zelda will win our best Zelda.
It's just how ontology works. Yeah.
Okay. We are out of listener submissions now. Now it is down to just the three of us.
So does do you have some remaining? Omar, do you have some remaining?
Yeah, Omar, do you have any remaining that we haven't touched on yet?
I'm going to throw two out there.
Okay.
But we can burn them because I do feel like I've created a different criteria now in my head, or a sort of different way to approach it.
Yeah.
Which I'll tell you guys right now is sort of like the overall influencer presence.
Oh, okay.
In the franchise.
Okay.
So that's like something I'm considering. So I had originally written down Old Man because I feel like that's just the most recognizable NPC in
just the It's Dangerous to Go Alone. Take this, man. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That I was also considering putting that Old Man on my list too. I won't go to bat for it now.
Yeah.
Because you're right. He is like foundational. And like what that is.
Yeah, it's so funny that and I think in some of the first or some of like the footage we started seeing at like E3 before Breath of the Wild's release, you get out of the cave and you encounter an old man, and everybody's just like, it's an old man. Like that means anything outside of the Zelda context.
Yep. Yep. And they refuse to be like, it's the same. They're just like, that's the old man. Yeah. It's just an old man. But now I'm starting to think like if someone was like, do you want to write like a spin-off comic book series about any NPC? Do you want to write about the old man? You'd be like, not really. If I'm being honest, not really.
You don't want to find out how he became old?
Yeah.
The first time he got old?
Sit down, let me tell you a tale. And then the other one I was going to go a little bit to bat for, and I still might, depending on how things play out, the chickens.
Okay, interesting. The Cuckoos.
Yep,
right?
the Cuckoos.
So the Cuckoos appeared on Chandler's list of a ton of characters because they are in all of these games.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put them on our list of
all
right.
Final to consider.
And
they can fight for you if you play your cards right.
Right, but more than likely you're going to accidentally hit one of them once, and it's gonna freak out, and you're like, I'm gonna show that chicken who's boss, and then you'll be swarmed by them.
Yeah. It's a roll of the dice.
Do you remember the first time that you did that, or heard about it, or like saw it happen to someone, where they're like attacking the chicken too many times? And then they're just swarmed by chickens.
I remember.
Yeah. For me, it was in Link to the Past. Like I think the first time that they appear, and just like having my mind blown by like, there's just that like little extra element of like cartoon reality.
Yep.
Where it's like if you beat up the chickens enough, they will fight back.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
It honestly is more real to me than like GTA, where I'm just like, oh geez. Like I think it's like playing Ocarina of Time now. It's just like, oh, okay, I really gotta.
Well, and then the other thing I'd love that they do in Ocarina of Time is like there are puzzles that like require you to use the chickens.
Mm-hmm.
So like pick up the chickens.
Right.
Use the chickens to float.
To fly a little bit.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
If companion cubes are like an essential part of Portal, I think I'm going to go to bat for these chickens.
I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful inclusion, Omar.
Interesting that chickens make it. Epona, not on anybody's list.
Yes, I think Epona was in one of these, like, not made it to the final brackets submissions. But yeah, I like Epona.
It's another Zelda. You're just like, oh yeah, it's a pretty horse.
Yeah.
No, like that's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice. I'm glad it exists.
Nothing but love. Nothing but love.
Yeah, I just don't feel passionately about it. Maybe it's because I'm gay.
Oh, okay. I have. Well, did you
That's
have
it. I'm maxed out now.
So I had 2 more that we did not bring up, and these are just characters that I like. So I won't really go to bat for them as, best necessarily in our final conversation here. But Prince Sidon from Breath of the Wild.
Great.
He's my favorite like living character in Breath of the Wild. The champions are all cool, but like here's this like super confident, like charismatic prince of the fish people who like just wants to hang out with Link and like likes Link.
Yeah.
And he's got that smile. I like Sidon a lot. And then also Linnebeck from the Phantom Hourglass. He is the captain of the ship that you like sail around the world. I guess it's not sail because it's like a steam-powered boat or something. He's a little bit of like a Han Solo type, but like has a very good reputation around the world as being like this adventurer that people look up to. But of course he's a total coward and like cowers all the time and all this stuff. But he helps Link around, through his journey, and gets into a position where he's going to get a wish at the end of their journey, and everyone Link expects that he's going to be wishing for like riches or whatever. But the only thing that he wishes for is to replace the boat of his that sinks on your journey together. So I don't know. He's like a roguish character who's actually cowardly, and a selfish character who's actually like kind of giving and nice. So I like Linnebeck, but I'm not going to go to bat for him in the pantheon that we have before us.
Requires a shout out though. Requires a shout out.
Def shout out.
Big ups.
Yeah, the biggest.
So before we get to this top 9,
yes,
Omar, and no pressure if you haven't had a chance to think about it yet, favorite Guardian? We can come back to you.
Yeah, come back.
Okay.
To me.
All right.
And just to review, Revali, Urbosa, Daruk, and Mifa. Guardians.
Yeah.
All right. So top. Okay. So top 9.
Right. That's what we got. Top
I think
9
so.
Here? Okay. So the candidates for top 9 are Salvatore from The Wind Waker, the Happy Mask Salesman, Skull Kid, Ravio, Maggie, Tingle, just the concept of cuckoos, Midna, and the Windfish.
So immediately,
yeah,
I'm going to say we have to choose between Happy Mask Salesman or Skull Kid.
I think that's a nightmare decision. That is a nightmare decision.
I don't think both can proceed. Personally.
I mean, I do think you're, it could come down to the 2 of them, like, for the title. But I think you're right.
Yeah.
Let's weed one out now.
Regardless, one of them will have to be eliminated.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Might as well just rip that Band-Aid off now.
Right. Okay. So, what do we think? Skull Kid has obviously got a lot of representation among our listeners, and I think we all like the Skull Kid.
Yeah, I like the Skull Kid. My vote would be for Happy Mask Salesman.
I think I would lean that way as well. If for no other reason that he is more unsettling than the Skull Kid and more foundational.
I'm going to go Happy Mask Salesman as well.
Okay, so this is heartbreaking, but we are now pulling the Skull Kid, the wearer of Majora's Mask, off of our list.
Yeah.
Top 9, he's a champion.
Yeah, it's true.
Because we're such fans, we don't want to drag that on. That's why.
True. That's true.
Like, everyone else will just like, go on a few more dates. But Skull Kid, we're like, no, please, we want to stay friends.
Exactly,
so.
Yeah. A happy retirement for Skull Kid.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I like the thought of him living happily. Happily?
Happily.
I don't think that's right. I think next we should pit the concept of the cuckoo against the windfish. Because
you're right.
Because they're both like sort of soft characters,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
They're almost more just like concepts that we like. Or do we pull them both out?
Pull them both
like
out.
Neither. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
Neither is going to be the top.
I have a reason why, even though I said I'd go to bat for them, I do have an argument to make it easier for us
to pull
the chickens out.
Yeah.
It's I know it's NPCs, but the chickens all exist as like a unit.
Yes.
And I do feel like that if we get into dangerous waters where we either say we're changing the rules, but that also homogenizes all of them as individuals.
Yes,
And the thing
yes.
I like is that the chickens are aware in the game and are making their own decisions, but we can't identify one specific one. I don't want to be like, that would be like saying like the village
Yes.
to me.
Well,
Right.
and to that same sort of point, the windfish with the sort of like plurality of personality that I've put
Yeah.
on them kind of falls into the same category. It has to be eliminated for the same reason that there are multiple points of personage here that we are trying to
Yes.
consider as one and are therefore both disqualified.
Yeah.
So they get into the final 9. They are not eliminated so much as they are disqualified.
This is the best reason to be disqualified from the list. Is what we want to celebrate your uniqueness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, that leaves us with Salvatore, the Happy Mask Salesman, Ravio, Maggie, Tingle, and Midna.
You're not gonna believe this because I really like Minna so much. I think Minna's like such a cool like Gaiman-esque character.
Yes.
And I say that now realizing I think that Minna is probably cooler than a lot of Neil Gaiman characters.
But she has that kind of quality to her too, where like there's the like darkness feels more earned.
Yeah.
Coming from her, and like she's an outcast from this dark dimension society of people that like are just gone.
Yes.
Like, she is and actually kind of shares this with Ravio, that they're both like creatures out of the like time and space that they belong in.
Yes. But because of that, I'm wondering if that's a possible elimination logic because it's technically like an accent into the world versus like a proper representation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is tough because I think that character's so cool. I think Min is so cool when you're just like riding around as a wolf and stuff. I'm like, this is really awesome.
Yeah, and she's got that like stone mask thing that's like that ends up being part of the like artifact that you've been assembling the whole time, which is super cool too. And she's got that little snaggly tooth.
Yeah,
I like Midna so much. Mark,
we-
what are you thinking here? I know you're not the biggest Midna fan.
Let's return to Midna.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because I don't think we're ready to say goodbye just yet.
Yes.
I think that's probably right. Well, brought up in that same breath, Ravio.
Now, do we pit Ravio and Happy Mask Salesman against each other because
They're
they
similar
both fulfill
types.
merchants?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right thing to do.
No,
I'm
I
just
think-
saying, like,
I think
You're gonna have to at some point.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's do it right now. Happy Mask Salesman v Ravio. So Happy Mask Salesman is creepier.
Yes.
Which I love is that's a selling point for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
On the plus side, Happy Mask Salesman's very creepy.
Yeah, real disturbing.
On the plus side, I'm uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
I guess what I think maybe what we would need to do is make an argument in Ravio's favor over Happy Mask, because right now for me, I'm putting the Mask Salesman over Ravio. But how are you guys feeling?
Yeah, I mean, Ravio was not on my personal list.
Same.
All right.
So, like, I don't feel as strongly. I think he's a great character. We don't have to keep saying that for every character that we eliminate. We're not hurting their feelings.
That's right.
We know that they're great. They're in the top 9.
I like that we're like in like a casting session.
Yeah.
We're like, you don't.
He'll find something else.
Yeah, exactly. You were fantastic.
You're just not right for this part.
Yeah. It's just because this franchise is going to go for 7 years, and we just think that you might be in a different place.
All right, so my boy Ravio,
Who
pulling him off
this is
the
tough.
list.
Wow. So we are down to
Salvatore, the Happy Mask Salesman, Maggie, Tingle, Midna. Rarefied air here. I think we need to do a 3-way brawl out between Salvatore, Maggie, and Tingle. These are sort of
Yes.
the MVPs from Wind Waker.
this. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So Maggie, I feel okay retiring at this point
Mhm.
because, again, Emma nailed it.
Yeah.
But she wasn't on anybody. none of our radars, right?
Yeah.
Like Maggie was not on our radars.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that I ever did that little side quest of getting the letters back and forth between Maggie and Mo. So I don't even think I was aware of this story until Emma brought it to my attention. But I think I will agree with you that if this is a list that we are presenting, it's not even a list, it's one character. If this is, we're going to make a definitive statement, I think Maggie's a great choice.
But not the choice.
Not the choice. Omar, I need you to sign off on this or fight it.
I agree, and I will say, but Maggie falls into the, if you were to pitch a spin-off comic, Maggie would get one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Tons of storytelling
I
potential
mean,
there.
Maggie and Mo, that's just great in and of itself.
Huge.
Oh my God.
That's huge.
Maybe we keep her on the list? Okay, Maggie's gone, which
Yeah.
means now we have to decide between Salvatore and Tingle.
So Salvatore is my pick.
Right.
He's
your number one.
Like when Salvatore goes, if he goes, this one's gonna sting a little bit.
I'll say Tingle feels a little bit like a Pikmin influence. And is kind of, again...
I agree with you, but I don't know why.
I can't quite place it.
Right.
But I think also Tingle might fall into the thing of like an accent character. Where I would be okay pulling Tingle out of the list and saying like, I love Tingle. If I see Tingle cosplay, I get excited.
Right.
Any Smash Bros nod to Tingle, I'm like, excellent, wonderful. But I do think that Tingle is still an accent character in that way.
I will agree, and it feels to me like the world that he is of, that if he's an alien in the world that he's in, that the world that he is of is our world, right?
Yes.
He's from Earth Prime.
Yep.
And so I think in the same way that Ravio and that Ravio is an interloper, that so too is Tingle, and I will also say let's take him off. Salvatore is very obviously of the world of Wind Waker.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we were to disqualify Tingle on a technicality, while you cannot play as him in a Zelda game proper, then you are able to play as Tingle.
Tingle's got games.
Tingle's got games.
Yeah,
he's doing
games.
fine.
Yeah.
Guys,
he has his own spin-off series.
Tingle's got games.
Tingle's got games. The Joey of this of the Zeldaverse.
That leaves us with top three characters here, right?
Wow.
Top three are Salvatore from The Wind Waker, the Happy Mask Salesman from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and Midna from The Twilight Princess.
These are
great characters.
Wow. Like, combined, I feel like you get a great sense of this universe.
Absolutely.
With those three.
So weird, so dark.
Yep.
Like such a spirit of like high adventure, but like also a twist on it too.
Yes.
And now we have to cut two of them as not good enough.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Okay, I mean, obviously, I mean, third place is strong for Midna, guys. Like,
whoa. Now hold on a minute. I know that you and Kat made strong arguments for Salvatore. Here's what I'm going to suggest. We'll see if we can find peace in this in this suggestion. Midna and Salvatore come off the list simultaneously, leaving us only with the Happy Mask Salesman.
That's interesting because I was going to propose that we remove the Happy Mask Salesman and we're left with like a top two that we then have to determine.
I think now that we are in the top three, that we just need to pit these three against each other. Otherwise, I don't know how any of the matchups are fair.
Let me remind all of us of a discussion we had earlier.
Yes.
God, this is so tense.
I know. We will all love each other when this is over.
We're at the part of the
just doesn't feel that way right now.
I know.
Wow. Okay. Oof. Okay.
Well, how are you feeling, Omar,
Yeah.
about like the 3 that we have left, and are you leaning towards cutting one over another one?
To me, they're equally balanced in terms of tone and what they bring to this world and what they represent. There's the storyteller, there's sort of the sprite figure, and then there's the merchant. Those are all
Yeah.
incredibly crucial parts of the Zeldaverse. I will say we did make a big deal about how merchants were a huge thing in Zelda. And I don't know if merchants are as big in anything else, like even including Resident Evil.
Even in Resident Evil
Even in
4.
even in Resident Evil 4, the epoch of gaming where we just went downhill from there.
Right.
In my mind, the fact that it is like artifacts being sold and it's masks, which is a huge thing, and there's transformative qualities.
Right.
It ties into Link's musical magic. That's like a good center part. Whereas like injured magical being from another realm is huge, but there's a handful of those that you could say like are also.
That's so interesting. Like it took us talking about it to like for me to realize that, you know, magical orphan from like another universe is like part of this franchise.
Yeah.
That like that's a trope that we see over and over again.
Yeah. Like spat out of a realm and has to.
Last son of a dying world. It's just Superman. Okay. Here's something we could do. We could count a 3 it and say at the count of 3 we all say who we think should be of our final 3.
We can't do that with 3 because in theory we could all say a different one, and that leaves us at square one.
That's fine. That's just where we are now.
No.
That's just where we are now.
I think we have to eliminate 1, then we have 2, and then we can 1, 2, 3 it.
No matter what.
And then no matter what,
Mark,
we will have our answer. We knew this was going to be painful, Patrick, so we can't chicken out.
What do you propose? Who do you propose we eliminate? Midna is your choice, yes?
No, I said before, I think we eliminate Happy Mask Salesman.
I think that's insane.
And top 3 is great, and I think the reason we do it
is so that you can squeeze out Salvatore. I know your game, Mark.
Fine. I
think we need to go one-on-one.
No.
All 3 of them.
Let me lay myself down on the tracks so we can proceed.
Throw yourself down on the spirit tracks.
I'm okay cutting Salvatore. Top 3 is solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting.
And he was on my list, and he was on Kat's list, but he wasn't on either of your guys' list.
That's
There's less
true.
consensus. So I think that I think that makes the most sense.
Bold. Salvatore's off the list.
Man, made a huge mark in this episode. Made it huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Guys, we're down to just 2, the Happy Mask Salesman and Midna. We've gone dark. We got some dark characters here. Is there anything more we need to say about these characters, or does it simply come down to a gut feeling and what we say right now in this moment?
This is the vote.
I think this is the vote. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll count down 3, 2, 1, and then after 1, we all say who we think should be the best Zelda NPC of all time. And not only, look, it's not who we think, it's the answer.
It's the
right?
answer.
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Happy
Midna.
Mask Salesman.
It's the Happy Mask Salesman takes it. No argument from me, even though I said Midna. Happy Mask Salesman, guys, how do you feel about that?
I think we made the right choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really do. I feel relief to know that we nailed it as hard as we did.
Okay, you know what? Here's where I think we landed.
Yeah.
I think that the Happy Mask Salesman highlights that you are playing as a mostly removed, not mostly removed, but like a magic adjacent character in a bigger world.
Yes.
And
it
that's
is a
what's
world
so
that
great.
you will never be able to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like Min is so cool because like that is like a portal into that world, but also she's like is in that
yes.
world, so it's like a great number 2 because you're like that is like you get to it. But the Happy Mask Salesman is that feeling where you're just like what is it's like that sensation of confusion and
He's
like
sort
mystery.
He's the realization that the world you're in is magical.
Exactly. Like he's the gateway. Midna, I feel like, is everything else.
Yes.
So I do feel like Happy Mask Salesman, and not just the Happy Mask Salesman being, but also the bag, the masks,
Yes,
the whole look of it, the whole thing of it.
And also just like having that sort of personage, that obsessive personality, and like the posture carrying over into other merchants and other games. Like he's the real deal. I think we did it, guys.
I think we actually did
we
it.
did.
Yeah.
I really do.
Omar, thank you so much for helping us determine this definitively. How do you feel?
Great. Thanks for letting me be a Monopoly dad. This was hard. I'm sweating. I'm legitimately
it's hot in here, too.
It's also warm. It's also warm.
We've turned up the pressure like a pressure cooker. Aptly named. Omar, anything that you would like to plug?
If you enjoy adventures and magic and stuff to do with artifacts and other worlds and ancient civilizations trying to take back the land, check out Thank You for Questing. It should be available anywhere that podcasts are available. Kelly is one of the main players, Kelly Nugent, so you can check.
Kelly, who has been on the show before.
Yes. And so the story has now just gotten to a place that I think is actually similar-ish in terms of like there being like a lot of crazy magic stuff going on. So if you want to check that out, but it's also very fun. So I think that's mostly it. And then I'm on Twitter, Omar Najam, if you want to call out anything that you think I said that was wrong, please. Or no, that's all right. Let's not feed the algorithm. Let's talk about the things we agreed on and like how much we love these games. I want to hear, tweet at me like what your like early Nintendo experiences are, because I just love chatting about Nintendo with people. So that would be great.
So there you go, everyone. You just made a great new friend. And also, if you have any... There's no room to debate here, obviously, because this is definitive. But if you would like to add your 2 cents post facto, maybe express some regret about not having participated, you can always email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com.
And thank you to everybody who did.
Yes, thanks so much. And Omar, again, thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can do that. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. What am I saying here, Mark? Share the episode, like the episode, rate, review, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. If you have anything else that you would like to add or inform us of, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And just thanks for everything. This has been super fun. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. If you want more of his music, you can go to 8bitbetty.com, or you can listen right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, maybe we should have considered the cuckoos. They're chickens. Thanks for listening.
Hey Clams, it's Lindsay and Angela. Welcome to the Clam Bake.
You know, the opposite of a sausage fest.
We explore what it means to be a feminist today.
We're coming back from our post-season 1 hiatus with a very special live show as part of the LA Film Festival, and we'd love to see you there.
It's Tuesday, September 25th at 7:30 p.m., and there are going to be trucker hats given out. Get ready to win.
Woohoo! So join us in some much-needed patriarchy smashing live Tuesday, September 25th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available online at filmindependent.org.
Can't wait to see you there. Bye, Clams.
Bye.
Campfire.